Absolutely nobody's talking about the man who had to start over from zero because a relationship destroyed his peace. He lost time, he lost money, he lost confidence, and in some cases, he lost years of his life trying to make something work that was quietly breaking him. And he stayed in silence. He suffered in silence. The hardest part, it's carrying the silence because men aren't encouraged to talk about emotional loss the way others are, the way women are. So that man rebuilds quietly. He questions his judgment. He becomes more guarded because he learned a hard lesson. The cost of giving too much to the wrong place, investing too much in the wrong person. If that's your story and this video resonates with you, I want you to hear something. Starting over isn't failure. Walking away wasn't weakness. Choosing peace after chaos is strength. Absolutely nobody's talking about the man.
So, I mean, yeah, no notes. We don't talk about what it's like for the man who tried, right? We it's very easy to vilify men. It's in vogue, it's popular right now. You cannot open social media, you cannot look at anything mainstream without a man being the butt of a joke or the reason for something not working, for some failure. It's just the state of the world. And we constantly do it with this simultaneous expectation that men are supposed to be more emotional, more in tune with themselves, more in tune with their emotional state, while we do nothing to protect it, while we do more to the point where I think we actively coddle and lie to women to make sure their emotional state is validated, because there's an expectation and a hope that if they weren't they needed it, and they were in the receiving end of it, they would have somewhere where to get it. Men don't get that. We don't get any sort of help in that regard. We have less systems in place to catch us when we will fall inevitably. We have to create those on our own. We have to do that. And usually it's usually after we've learned the hard way, after something has been broken, taken. And sometimes yes, it's a fault of our own. Sometimes it's no fault of our own. We see more and more stories about women saying, yeah, he was a great guy. I just wasn't happy. He wasn't my guy. What are we supposed to do with that? What happens to the men that are receiving end of that? Most of the times, they're written out of that story. It's we're on to the next season, and the person doesn't even get a cameo. We never stop and check and say, what's going on with his life? How's he coping? There's some videos here where they're showing like family court, where you'll see the man just, I don't understand. One particularly comes to mind where he's like, why am I paying $1,100 a month in child support? She stays home, she's remarried, and the kids go to school. And he was so upset with it, and the judge says, hey, that number can go up. And we all have the same look on our face. Like, no, this number's supposed to be fixed and set by math, set by rules, not because the guy is being, unruly. And he really wasn't being unruly. He was just really frustrated. But when we see what happens when men are sort of broken apart, we barely see that side. Sometimes what we see more of the celebrity, the athlete, the Anthony Edwards, the we see that happening. We say, oh, he has to pay so much money, but there's always that underlying thought, well, he has it. He has that money to pay. But what about the men that went from living in a house with their wife and their family to now he has to be in a studio apartment, or he's living in his car because the system in its place is sort of geared towards making sure it's extracting resources from him and sending it over there to, one, I get it, to make sure the kids are taken care of, but two, to also fund her life. For the longest time, lifetime alimony was a thing, say, in Florida. Florida recently, in the last couple of years, did away with it and said this makes no sense. There was a counter push towards that because they said, I rely on that money. They never look and say, well, what is it for him to constantly have to do that? We get it. If he makes more money, and you're saying, well, it's fine. But there's no thought about, well, what happens in retirement? Oh, half of that's already gone. Half of that's already earmarked over here. It makes very little room for the man to put his life back together and make something of himself. It's the same thing if you're in the stock market and you lose 50% of your money. You need to make 100% to get back to where you were. To get back to where you were. Monetarily, that's just on that side of it. The other, of course, it's the emotional, the spiritual. It's the loss of the access to your children. For such a long time, you woke up and they were there. You went to bed. You just finished putting them to bed. You just finished checking in on them. Now you get them every other weekend. It's so devastating to men. And then when we turn around and we look and say, well, why is the self deletion rate so high? We try to make it seem like it's a lack of mental acuity and mental aptitude. Like, no, you just don't know how to process your emotions. That's why. Oh, life is sometimes seems to be in hard mode in some respects for men. And it doesn't give you a lot of chances at an extra life or any power ups. It just says, yeah, this is kind of how it is. We expect you because other men do it. We expect you to be able to do it. They've found success. They've made it happen. You should be able to do the same thing. One of the probably the first lessons that men across the board usually first internalizes. Yeah, no one's coming to save you. And we wrap ourselves around that lesson and we hold to it tightly. That's why we rarely like asking for help. That's why when we see more content with women with their hand out saying, hey, you're supposed to give me, you're supposed to help, or you're supposed to pay. And it's just like, when did I have that opportunity? We know it's not apples to apples, but no one's ever come to say me. In fact, begging is the way a lot of men look at it. You're simply begging for resources, and we look at that with such abhorrence. Like, no, we're not supposed to beg. We're supposed to find a way to make it happen. We're supposed to get clever. We're supposed to, at most, rely on family and the closest of friends, not just put this on TikTok. And this is not to say that you don't see men doing that right now. There's a homeless man going around trying to shame women into providing for him, as he's very candid about his lack of a house and his medical issues. Does not say that we don't now have a society that has men that participate in these things. But for those that sort of adhere to the rules, to the lessons, to the game plan, that life said, do these things and you'll be successful. Do these things and you'll find happiness. We tried it, we walked the path, and then it got blown up. Yes, sometimes by our own fault, other times not. But the cleanup, what happens after the aftermath, after the bomb goes off, it's just left for men to say, hey, figure it out. Just like everything else you did, figure it out. If you're lucky, you'll take half the amount of time it took you all your life to get back where you just were. And then life walks on and you're not in the next season. You're not in the show anymore. And then they look at you and say, what's wrong with men? And they make think pieces, what's wrong with men? No. That's why when men do hit that, hit that wall or hit that rock bottom, when they start putting it back together, they're like Bruce Wayne, they're like Batman. They're like, I don't want to be bothered. I don't. Their hearts are closed off, and it's very rare I see it opened up in the same sort of fashion. Where men get hurt that deep and have that lesson in which they once kind of danced around with, when they have it now solidified that yes, no one is coming to save you. Yeah, they get cold. They get cold and they get very calculated, and they get, I need to get this much to do this, to do that, to do that. That's when they're fine laying their bodies out on the line, sacrificing their health to get some momentum going so they can make something of that life. Part of it is spite, part of it is anger, part of it is that cold realization that, this life is not the way you thought it was just a couple months ago. Listen, if you think I'm missing something, let me know down in the comments. If you see videos on your screen right now, it means I'm doing my job. Take a look at those videos. Let me know what you think about those in those videos, of course. And if you listen to some of this now and you have not subscribed, join the train. Just trying to pay that rent. I'll see you in the next one.